Hello and welcome guys. So in this lecture we will be exporting all the textures from Substance Painter back into Blender. But I also added like a couple of more sticker textures that you can add to the Game Boy if you want to. Just select them both and let's drag and drop them into the shelf. Select as texture and into the project hit import. Again we need to do the same thing. So hold Alt and Shift and snap it to the backside view maybe. We can add a paint layer and now use the projection paint tool and drag and drop, let's say, this Mario sticker over here. We can stamp it a little small sticker just to add a bit more detail. Maybe not here, we can place it over here. You can press S, then increase the size of it if you want to. I will just decrease the size of it a little bit. Yeah, this is much better. And let's drag and drop this one. We can stamp a few of them at the back side. These are like a couple of Pokemon stickers. Now you can just select the eraser tool and delete if you like paint it a little bit in access. So I'm just showing you how we can add a little bit more authentic details to your models. I think something like this looks pretty good. So yeah, this is just for demonstration purposes. You can like experiment along with this however you like. You can Google a lot of different kind of stickers or any kind of like extra additional details that you want to add on to your model. Let's rename this to sticker, and yeah, I will add a filter same as HSL Perceptive to just make it a little bit darker to fit with the color tone of our Nintendo Game Boy. So 0.45 is fine, I think. I will desaturate it a little bit. Yeah, that's pretty good. Alright, so now to export textures from Substance Painter to Blender, you just need to hit Control Shift and E. That is the shortcut for exporting textures. You will see this window pop up, or you can also go over to File and hit Export Textures. Alright, so we only have to worry about the settings over here. So first is output directory. This basically means where you want to export your textures. So just click over here and I will head over to the tutorial directory and let's see, we can create a new folder. Let's rename this to Blender Textures, just so we know it is different from this textures folder. In here, create another folder and let's rename this to Game Boy. Open it up and hit select folder and you can see the path is appearing over here. Next is the output template. So in this here you will find like various different templates of different softwares, like we have Blender, we also have like Unity, Unreal Engine. So yeah, we want to export this to Blender. So that's why we will be selecting Blender Principal BSDF. So just select this one. File template, let's see. We can go with PNG maybe. Let's go with 16 bits and the size can be 4K and rest everything remains the same. You can also like select the texture set. So if you have like multiple different texture sets in your model, you can like enable and disable them from over here. If you only want to export like one texture set or two, and you can like adjust the specific settings from over here. But these are like global settings, and like 95% of the times you only have to edit over here only, and you don't have to do anything else. And yeah, when you have done all the settings, just hit export and wait for it to finish. Also, let's open up Blender. Open up this file and let's disable this for now and open up Game Boy. Now you can go over to the shading tab and let's add the materials. So one thing that I do want to suggest you guys is first go over to the edit tab and in the preferences menu, enable an add-on called Node Wrangler. So if you don't have this enabled, just enable this Node Wrangler. It will give us a nice little shortcut that we can use to set up the textures all at once. So what you need to do is just select this Principal BSDF. You will find it over here by default in your material. Then hit Control Shift and T and this window will pop up. Go back, and now in the, where is it, Blender Textures folder, just select all of them at once and hit Principal Texture Setup, and just wait for it to load, and you will see everything would be loaded all at once. Just give it a little bit of time, and yeah, as you can see, everything has been set up correctly. You can see, as you can see, the texture setup is done all by itself. You don't need to do anything. So this helps us a lot. Make sure to check that all the other textures are in color space non-color, and only the base color is in sRGB. Rest of them should be non-color. All right, now we can go back to layout, and if you view this in the rendered view, so currently we are in the EV shading, but let's change this to cycles, because cycles is more accurate with the lighting and everything. It would be a little bit slower. If you have a GPU, you can change this from CPU to GPU and just give it a little bit time. Yeah, it would be much faster. You can also enable denoise from over here. This will help to like remove all those like noisy textures. You will see when you are like moving it around, you will see this noisy grainy texture. So if you enable this, it would be reduced a little bit. And yeah, we can now press Shift A and let's add a simple light. Let's add a directional light, so we can add sun lighting. You can press R and rotate it like this. You can press R 2 times to rotate it freely along this plane. And yeah, now you can see our textures came out pretty good. They are looking really nice in Blender also. So let's do the same thing for the cartridges too. Let's enable them back and go back to Substance Painter, File, Recent Files, and in the cartridges, make sure to hit Save. All right, so now again hit Control Shift and E. We need to again head over to our tutorial directory, and in this folder, let's create a new folder. Rename this to cartridges. Open it up and select folder, and just quickly do the same settings that you did for the other project. And now hit export. So now the export is done. Cancel, go back to Blender and select the cartridges this time and head over to the shading tab. And again, while this principal BSDF is selected, hit Control Shift and T. And in the cartridges folder, select all of them and hit Principal Texture Setup. Wait for it to load. All right, guys. So it is done now. You can see the textures are showing up properly over here. Let's come back to the Layout tab. Wait for the render to load up a little bit. And you can see everything looks pretty good in my opinion. Our textures came out pretty nicely. Let's just bring them out over here in the front. And let's see, now we can start to like set up the render a little bit. So let's see how we can do that. First, I will press Shift A and let's add a simple plane. Press 1 for the front view and just place it so that it acts as the ground. Now scale it up. And make sure it is not overlapping like this, because it can look a little bit weird. This way, the shadows are looking proper. And now what I will do is, I will show you a nice little trick. Press S then X, scale it up like this. Select this, press Tab. Press 2 for edge select and select this edge. Press E to extrude it like this. Press Z and just extrude it towards the top like this. And now you will notice we see this weird edge. So press Control and apply the scale first. Then press Tab and I will select this edge. Then press Control B and bevel it out and make it smooth, just to create that studio lighting effect. You can scale it up a little bit more if you want to cover it entirely, and you can see. Now you can select this, the plane that we just added, add a new material to this, and you can like do things like changing the color of the background. Also make sure to hit right click and shade smooth so that you don't see any of those weird shading issues. And yeah, you can do a lot of things, like you can create a lot of different render settings. If you like set this to completely black, and let's say I make this decrease in roughness, you can see Now the background is like really shiny and the things are being reflected. All right, before we actually start to set up the lighting and like setting up the camera lighting and everything else, one thing that I want to do is let's come back over here in the viewport shading. Let's just disable the plane for now. I will select the plane and the light, press M and move this to a new collection, and let's rename this collection to camera and lights. We will add the camera later on and disable it. Let's disable the cartridges also. And now what I want to do is that I want to create like a parent object that we can select to easily move around this, because right now if we want to move it, we need to select it all like this, then just move it. So it is a little bit of hassle. So what I will basically do is I will press Shift A and let's add an empty object and add a plane axis. Move it over here in the middle of our Game Boy. Like it can be roughly in the middle, it does not have to be accurate. And now while this empty object is selected, make sure this is the active selection. So active selection is like this yellow colored selection, and if you hold Shift and select something else, you can see now it is no longer the active selection. This object is the active selection. So whatever is in this yellow color is the active selection, and whatever is in orange color is not the active selection. So make sure this is the active selection, then press A to select everything. And now you can see everything is selected, but our empty axis is the main selection. And now what you need to do is hit right click, parent and parent to object. As soon as you do that, what will happen is now if you select this empty object and move it around, you can see all of the objects are moving along with it. So this makes our lives a lot easier because we can easily select this, move it around, we can even rotate it, scale it. So yeah, it makes it easier to set up everything. Let's do the same thing for the cartridges also. I will select this empty and press M and move this to the Game Boy collection. Let's enable the cartridges and make sure to do it for them one by one. So press Shift A, add an empty plane axis, move it over here. Now I will just select all of this and press H to hide it. Now just select this one. Now press A so that this stays the active selection. Right click, parent and object. Press Alt plus H to bring this back. Now hide this one. Press 7 for top view. Sorry, I will enable screencast keys. Press Shift plus A and add an empty. Move it over here. And now again, while this is the active selection, press A, hit right click and parent it. Press Alt plus H to bring everything back. Now we can just press A to select everything, press M and move this to the cartridges applied collection. Alright, let's enable back everything. And this way it would be a lot easier for us to move around things. We can place these two also over here. Let's see, we can just press R, the next rotate them by 90 degrees. Let's rotate them by minus 90 degrees like this and place them on the ground. Let's do the same thing for this also. Press 7 for top view, place it over here on top of this. So I'm just trying to create some type of interesting looking render. Let's select this and rotate it a little bit this way. Alright guys, so now let's add a camera and set up the scene a little bit. So press Shift plus A and add a camera. So now you will see the camera is added over here. If you want to view through your camera view, you can press 0 on your number pad and you will notice that you are viewing through your camera now as soon as you press 0. So to set up this camera properly, it is really easy. What you need to do is basically move around your scene in normal view, how you want it to be placed in the camera. Like let's say I want it to be placed right about here like this. As soon as you have placed your view correctly, then you can press Ctrl, Alt and 0 and you will see now the camera fits perfectly along your view as you have placed it. If you press 0 in a now if you press 0 on your number pad, you will be easily able to view through your camera. And now to adjust it even better, you can go over here in this tab. So press N to view this tab, and in the view tab, enable lock camera to view. When you enable this, you can move around your camera easily now as you move around your scene. But yeah, as soon as you set it up, make sure to just disable it back because it can sometimes mess up things. So yeah, now we have done this. Let's view through our rendered view once. And another setting that I will enable is, I think I've already enabled it. So you can come up over here in the output properties and make sure to enable render region. So what this will do is it will only show you the region that will be rendered, that is through your camera, and rest of the things would be hidden. So make sure you enable this. All right, let's set up some things a little bit more. What I will do is to view both sides of the what is this Game Boy, I will place them side by side. So just select this, and now to select all of the objects at once, because we need to duplicate them, press Shift plus G. So this is select grouped, and I will select the children, and you can see everything is selected on its own. Make sure to hold Shift and select this also, and now press Shift plus D to duplicate it, place it over here, and now let's just rotate it by 180 degrees. Press 0 to view through your camera, and again enable camera to view, and let's place this properly. Now select this first and rotate it like this, and select this one and rotate it something like this. We can also first disable camera to view. We can select this thing over here, the cartridge, and again press Shift plus G and select group children, and make sure to hold Shift and select this also. Then press Shift plus D. You can press G and then press Shift plus Z to only move it in the X and Y plane. Let's place it over here. And now press R, then X, rotate it by 90 degrees. Then you can press 7 for the top view and just place it inside this simply. Now bring it out. So press G, then Z, and let's move it up till here. I think it fits pretty well. So yeah, press G, then Y 2 times just to move it along the rotation. And now let's view the rendered view. Press 0 for your camera. And yeah, I think it looks pretty nice. We can maybe bring it out a little bit. Let's see. Yeah, that's pretty good. Again, I will select these two things over here. What we can do is just enable X-ray and select everything over here. And now just make sure to deselect this thing over here. So hold Control and deselect this. And yeah, just deselect everything while holding Control. Now press Shift plus D, then Shift plus Z to place it right over here like this. And let's just rotate it on the y-axis by 180 degrees to flip them completely. And we can place them somewhere around here just to add a bit more detail to the scene. So just quickly select everything. Select all of these parent objects. Press 0 to view through your camera, and let's move it right about here so that everything is in the center. And I think I'm happy with placing the render like this. Now it's time to set up the lighting a bit better. All right, so let's see. I will first just delete the sun because we don't really need it right now, and come over to the shading tab now. Make sure to view the rendered view. Press 0 to view through your camera. And now you guys must be currently in the object. If you select like any of the object, you can view their materials. But if you go over here and select the world, so click over here. I think it, yeah, okay, yeah. Now it is working. Now click over here and select world, and then you can edit the lighting settings of the world. If you will notice, if I select this node over here, this is the node that is added by default. So if I just select it and delete it, everything would go dark. But don't worry, we will add our HDRI of our own. So press Shift A and select environment texture node to add over here. And now if you will check in the resource files, I've added a HDRI file that you can use. Obviously, it is totally up to you. If you want to use some other HDRI file, you can download it from the internet. There are like great websites that provide HDRIs for free, like Polyheaven 3D or Ambient CG. So there are a lot, you can easily find them. I have provided you with one of them. If you want to use that one, you can definitely go for it. So just head over to the tutorial directory, and here it is, Carpentry Shop. So just open it up and now plug it in the surface. As soon as you do that, you can see we are viewing the HDRI. It is a little bit weird right now, but don't worry, we'll fix everything. I think it is being caused because of the, I think roughness is very low of this background, but we can fix that later on. So now select this node, press Ctrl T, and you will add this mapping node. So what we can do is we can rotate the HDRI however we want. But first, let's fix the background a little bit. So what we need to do is type in 0 over here in rotation. Let's select the background and come back to object. So what we basically need to do is we need to increase the roughness to somewhat like 0.8. Yeah, as you can see, now it looks pretty good. All right, so let's change the color now. Click over here on the base color and increase the value to maybe something like 0.3. I think this complements our render really well. All right, so now let's go back to the world settings, and we can use this mapping node to maybe like move around the HDRI, and you can do things like rotating it around. So you can rotate it to find the best possible lighting angle. These are the like different settings that you can play around. Let's set it to something like 170. Also, to like add on to this thing, you can press Shift A and add a like thing like area light. Let's go back over here to viewport shading, and you can like rotate it by 90 degrees like this first. And now if you view your rendered view, you can select the area light and maybe just increase the power of it to like add a little bit different kind of lighting. You can change the color, and you can add like multiple different lights to create a nice setup. So yeah, that is totally up to experimentation for you guys. You can create like different lighting setups for you. So what I will do now is I will just quickly render out my scene one time to just see how everything looks. And after seeing the render, we can see like what things we have to fix or what is lacking in our render. So come over here in the render settings. Make sure to just set up everything like this. Enable denoise for both of the viewport and the render. And we have this max samples over here. So right now it is currently set to 4096. That is a large number, and the render can take a lot of time. So I will just quickly decrease this to 1000 only. And now you can hit F12 on your keyboard to start with the rendering process. And I'll just cut the video when the render finishes. So I'll see you there. It might take a little while. Alright guys, so the render is done now, and if you zoom in over here, you will notice that our Game Boy looks very weird with all these bumpy stuff going on. So I actually knew about this error, and I know how to fix this. I just wanted to show you guys how it might look. So this is because of the displacement map. What we basically need to do is let's just close this, go back to object, and select a Nintendo Game Boy. So currently, if you just scroll down over here and check out the displacement node over here, the scale is currently set to 1. That is quite a large number for displacement. We need to just decrease it down to 0.1 for this, and also for the cartridges also. As soon as you do that, this will fix all of those bumpy issues that were going on with our Game Boy and the cartridge. If you press F11 to view the render, you can see everything looks really weird. So now when you have done this change, again press F12 and yeah, just quickly render it out. I will again wait for it to finish. Alright guys, so the render is again done now. Now if you zoom in over your model, it looks pretty good. The bumpy stuff is like really small now, so it looks much better. If you wanted, you can decrease it even more, but in my opinion, it looks pretty good now, and the renders are coming out fine. The lighting itself is pretty basic, but I think it works. It looks really nice. And yeah, we can definitely work with it. If you want to now save this image, you need to go over to image, hit save. And I've already created a folder, but you can just save it wherever you want. And make sure to set this to JPG or PNG and decrease the compression to 0 because we don't really need any kind of compression. Set this to JPG and set the quality to 100. And then you can name it whatever you want, like render1, and then just hit save as image. And yeah, basically the render would be saved. So we are pretty much done with our course over here. I've shown you how we can render things out. So what I suggest you guys to do now is to experiment with the lighting a little bit. You can experiment with the camera angles. You can like take various different portfolio shots. Like you can take one single shot of from the front only of the Game Boy, one from the back side. You can take a couple of different shots with the cartridges and whatnot. So yeah, I definitely suggest you guys to experiment a little bit more. And as I said, you can add like multiple different lights to create a different kind of lighting setup. Another thing that I want to mention is if you head up over here in the output properties, you can also change the resolution of the render. You can see that you can increase or decrease the resolution and play around with the aspect ratio of your render. You can maybe like increase it to 2560 by 1440, or even you can increase it to 4K also. I would suggest you guys to render it out in this resolution and also increase the render samples a little bit. Maybe 4096 is a bit large number, so we can work around with 2000. But yeah, your renders would take a little bit longer, but the quality would be much nicer as the resolution is high and the number of samples is also high. So yeah, when you are taking your final renders, then you can maybe like render it out in a higher resolution, higher samples. But when you are like only testing things, you can even set this to maybe 500 or 400 and decrease the resolution to only like 1080p. So yeah, let's just render it out one final thing in this resolution and these samples, and I will show you a couple of things in Photoshop, and then we'll end with the course. So yeah, I will just quickly hit F12 and wait for the render to finish. Alright guys, so the render is done now, and you will notice that the quality is much better with this one. So let's just go over to image, save, and save it as render2. I will save it as JPG and increase the quality to 100. Hit save as image and open up Photoshop. I'll just close this for now. Let's hit save on it. So in Photoshop, hit open and let's just open up our render. So render2 over here. So I don't really know that much about Photoshop, but there is one little setting that I always use and that will enhance your renders by like 2 or 3 times. So just go over to filter, sharpen, and select sharpen more. As soon as you do that, you will see your edges are like lot more sharper, and you can just undo it once and see the effect. So everything is looking like kind of fuzzy, but as soon as you hit Control Shift and Z to undo it back, you can see everything is like so sharp and the edges look really nice. So yeah, this is the one setting that I always do to my renders, and this will like make your renders pop up a little bit better. Obviously, you can do other things like setting up the tone, contrast, or color, and changing the brightness, contrast. So these are like the basic settings. I don't really know that deep about Photoshop, but you can definitely do all these things. You can change the color balance, like giving it a different type of tint, whatever you want to. So yeah, that is totally up to you guys, however you want to do it. But yeah, this is the couple of things that I wanted to show you in Photoshop. Definitely make sure to select sharpen more in the filters. That will enhance your renders a lot. And yeah, now I would just suggest you guys to take out a couple of different portfolio shots. Like you can take single shots and like take one back shot, one from front. Yeah, just set up different kind of lighting setups, and that would be really nice. All right, guys. So this is pretty much it for this course. Thank you for watching. I hope you like this course. If you have any doubt, make sure to drop it in the comments or message me. So thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next one.